Mulligan there in the distance. Doesn't probably give it justice on the video, but it's a very imposing mountain that's rising up out of the ground there. As you come up on the hill, it sort of hits you in the face as you come over. Don't mind all the marks on the windscreen and the big crack in our windscreen.
The work and somebody else provided the... Yeah. Or maybe we contracted out, I just don't remember now.
Here we are, we're at Mount Mulligan Cemetery. You can see this plaque over here. It says, I can't get my shadow out of it somehow. I can't get my shadow out of it. There. To commemorate the annual maintenance of this cemetery for the last 30 years by the Cairns 4-Wheel Drive Club, April 2011. So I've been doing it for 30 years in 2011, so it's like 40 years now. Okay, so we're here. Now most of the graves in here, or the majority of them, are burials from when the Mount Mulligan Mine Disaster happened on the 19th of September 1921. So there's a Mount Mulligan honour roll. There's also some other people buried in here, obviously family members and what have you of people that worked at Mount Mulligan Mine. So there was a massive explosion there and the entire crew were killed, 75 men, the biggest mine disaster in Australia's history. So this cemetery, just taking in a wide view here, is all the grave markers from all the men that died. You can see a lot of these graves are unmarked because simply maybe the families moved away, maybe they couldn't afford headstones. They would have all had markers on them originally, but the little tin signs have faded away over years. Last time I was here I saw the biggest spider I'd ever seen in my life, a bird-eating tarantula, which I took some photos of. I did check to see if he was still here, but his hole's almost covered in and no sign of him. So he was just down here and you can only just see his hole at the front of the grave there now, which is not nearly as big as it was when I came last time. It's also much easier to see this time since the grass has been mowed. So this is ever-loving memory of Duncan A. McIntyre, aged 32 years. It says, I'll just bring it in a little bit. It says, hundreds of miles divide me from the spot where you are laid, but I love you just as dearly though you were in your silent grave, erected by his loving wife. So obviously she didn't live at Mount Mulligan at the time, or maybe moved straight after it. And this one, obviously somebody's been to visit this grave in more recent times. And it says, in loving memory of our darling son and brother Robert Ernest Leary, killed at Mount Mulligan on the 19th of September 1921, aged 24 years. A lot of these guys were young crew. A lot of them were father and sons that died in this disaster. You can see just up here, if I put the camera up, Mount Mulligan. It's an imposing mountain that just crops up out of the ground with a really long rock face at the front of it. We'll go up there later, but the mine went in underneath Mount Mulligan. And there's the remnants of a town now, but not much left. But it's worth going to have a look at, just to see where Australia's largest mine disaster took place. Here's another one of those gigantic spider holes. can't see anything in there. It doesn't mean he's not down there though. Pretty peaceful for them out here with you know, I don't think many people visit Mount Mulligan Cemetery. There are some people that come out and have a look because of the, you know, they're interested in old graveyards and what have you, like ourselves. This is, it's quite a nice grave. It's one of the larger ones. It says, in loving memory of Roland McCormick, killed in the Mount Mulligan explosion, 19th of September 1921, aged 16 years. In the bloom of his life, God claimed him. In the prime of his manhood days, there came a day when the roll was called, that he did not answer, but he slept with his comrades, his last long sleep. He died without fear, erected by his loving mother and brother. How sad. 16 years old. I think it's a pretty big ask for a 16-year-old to be working in a mine to start with, especially a coal mine. So he had a short life and a hard life. This one here has the daylily on top. This is memory of James Carson, killed in Mount Mulligan explosion, 19th of September 1921, aged 41 years. Rest, dear Father, thy work is done. Erected by his loving daughters. You can see this big long row here of all these. I mean, when I say unmarked, they have the grave number on them. Like this one's number 32. But they're just surrounded by rocks, all of these graves. They don't have headstones on them. Looking at some of these marble headstones, I guess they would have been rather expensive back in the day. They're expensive now, so I can only imagine they would have been expensive then as well. A lot of families probably, I don't think mining families were wealthy families, especially coal miners. Here's another one. It says, in loving memory of my dear husband and our father, John A. Dryer, aged 43 years. Also my dear son and our brother, John W. Dryer, aged 17 years, who were accidentally killed 19th of September 1921 in the Mount Mulligan Mine Disaster, erected by their loving wife, mother and family. So there's a father and son right there. Pretty sad. This one is Alex Kazlov, born in Russia, killed Mount Mulligan, 19 September 1921. So there was even a Russian out here working in the mine. Interesting. Another one. Samuel Mccomb, aged 41 years, erected by his loving wife Mary and family. And also Bernard Mccomb is in there, 85 years. So they've obviously had, maybe his father was buried in there as well. So you can see, looking down, we've still got rows of unmarked graves here. And others that have just got things like this fence around it. No details. These balls are interesting. They look like they've been handmade. out of rough iron. Look at these balls, Dave. They look like they've been handmade. Aren't they? They've been like filed. You can see the file marks on them and everything. Just turn them into a ball. That's unreal, isn't it? Very interesting.
They didn't have the money, but they...
Yeah, they did what they could. This looks like a really... It's been handmade, all of this. Like they've cut the top of these bars to give it a bit of decoration. A lot of work went into that.
Yeah.
There's no headstone, but there's certainly...
They didn't have the money, but they put the work into it.
Yeah.
And then probably was a gravestone.
There would have been a marker at some point.
There would have been timber or something, and the termites ate it.
Yeah, the termites eat it, or the fire burns it. There's a heck of a lot of graves here that haven't got any markers at all on them, but you can see the mounds. This one here says, sacred to the memory of our dear son and brother James Patrick Jimmo Graham, departed this life 25th of September 1945, aged 15 years and 9 months. No pains, no grief, no anxious fear can reach our loved ones sleeping here. So obviously that was well and shortly after the mine disaster, but it was in September also, in 1945.
Oh, look, his grandparents.
Oh,
put a
yes.
special thing,
Look, his grandparents have put a special urn on here, a marble urn, and it says, from his loving grandparents. How beautiful is that? That's really nice, isn't it? Obviously, he meant a lot to them. Look at these graves. It's saddening, isn't it, with the way they're like this. And this one here's had a concrete. They've obviously tried to make a concrete top for it. Someone's tried to hand make, you know, these corners on this grave also look like they've been handmade. Someone's gone to a lot of work. Some of these people have gone to a lot of work, haven't they, to honour their dead relative. That's amazing. It definitely look, don't you think these concrete things look handmade as well?
Can you read that, Mary?
No, I can't read it. I don't know what it says, but I assume it might have been somebody from the disaster. It's really hard to read. It looks like there's been something on it at one stage. There's a few of these block type of things up there. They might have been making them, you know, someone might have had a mould and been trying to make them. This one here's got a collapsed picket fence.
Yeah.
Look at this, it's all laying on the ground here. It's amazing, it survived fires, but the test of time, the picket fence has fallen down. This one is loving memory of Con Quill, 4th of September 1925, aged 44 years, from your loving wife and children. So Con Quill, he may have worked at the mine, but he wasn't part of the disaster. Oh, there's a baby's grave over here, David. Well, it looks like a baby's grave. It looks like a little cradle, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it?
Go and have a look at it. I can't really see what it says, but I feel like it's 21st of the 7th, 32 maybe. Can't see the name, but it's obviously a child's grave because it's quite small.
Yeah, we'll get closer. Maybe.
Yeah, see if you can actually see. I'm not sure if it says Claire or Klaus, that very first bit. It's
No, I
interesting.
can't read it.
Yeah, I can't read it. It does say 1932, I think, that last bit. I'll keep heading up this way a little bit. This person obviously not part of the mine disaster. In loving memory of Minnie Ethel Clifford, died 12th of January 1925, aged 46 years, deeply mourned, erected by her loving husband and daughters. So 1925, so 4 years after the disaster. It's a large surround for not a really large headstone, that one. Getting rather hot now. This one has a beautiful headstone with the daylilies right down the cross. Daylilies usually denote, you know, a life cut short, because daylilies really only flower for a day. It says, in loving memory of my darling husband and son, George Doran James, aged 40 years, George Robert James, aged 16 years, who were killed in the Mulligan Mine Disaster. We have lost, heaven has gained, two of the best the world contained, erected by their loving wife, mother and family. How sad for a family, for a wife to lose her husband and her son, both in the same tragedy. There was quite a few that you know, did lose their husbands and their sons in this tragedy. This one's interesting because it's facing the opposite way to all the other headstones in the cemetery.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. Maybe so you can see it from the road. They'd still be facing east. In loving memory of our dear husband and father, William Barnes, accidentally killed 26th of June 1926, aged 30 years. 'Twas hard to give up, by the will o' God be done. Having finished life's duty, he now sweetly rests. You know, he didn't obviously die in the mine disaster, but this mine kept going.
Yeah, I know.
For several years. And there was a lot more people. There was one over at Thornborough that died later on, and also this man, I'm assuming it says accidentally killed, so it's more than a possibility that he was killed working in the mine.
Yeah.
But interesting that his grave faces the opposite way to everyone else's.
Yeah.
Okay, sacred memory to R.H.R. Whittaker, FRCS, Medical Officer, Mount Mulligan District Hospital, died 28th of December 1928, aged 52 years. Well, depending on how long he was here, he might have been part of the medical team that, you know, ran and tried to help people that were brought out from the mine explosion. Yeah. Mind you, it was 7 years later, so who knows.
Let's see if I can find that grave. Remember that I found a grave that had a...
I think it was that one over there with all the rocks, Dave. I think it's just there, and we tried to clean it off last time. There is James Alexander Tudhope. I'm not sure where that name would be from. And Edwin Gordon Tudhope, 9 months. A lot of people, a lot of them have shells on their grave. People in the past have put shelves on there. That was the one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. This one's beautiful. It's got the angel looking up to heaven on the top. Mind you, I'm not sure about the eyes. They look a bit ominous, those eyes. It's got the broken daylily at the bottom of the grave. In loving memory of Laura Wiggins, passed away 1st of May 1935, aged 41 years. A voice from our household is gone, a voice we loved is stilled, a place is vacant on this earth which never can be filled. Erected by her loving husband and daughter, William and Nancy. You know, there was all sorts of reasons to die with living out here, no proximity to close medical care really, and lots of, you know, they had lots of things come through, typhoid and diphtheria and things like that. Bill Owen. Died 1st of July 1935, erected by Maud and Eddie. That's interesting. This man would be Owen if his nickname wasn't Bill.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you got to remember, in some cultures, that's how it is.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Owen. Well, that's the one that had all the children.
This one?
Yeah.
I got one there.
That one that you're looking at. This one is in loving memory of my dear husband and father.
This is the children who are, he's saying what his children are.
Yes, John Danson, 58 years, 1933. So there was quite a few people here obviously after the mine disaster. This one had a lot of children, didn't he?
Yeah. So this grave actually was buried under the sand, but we sort of managed to sweep everything away and recover it. And
what's it say? It says commemorating the life of William Herbert Barry. Is it father? It says father in inverted commas. Oh, so maybe he was a father. Like, I don't know. Passed away 19th of June 1934. Married Mary Edith Nolan, and they had all his children. There was Ella Crogan, Sis Conlon, Betty Dignam, Harry Barry, that's an interesting name, Joy O'Connor, Iris Creedy, Jack Barry, Jim Barry, Marge Boland, Elsie Hillis, and Edith Kismanti, I think it is, or Kismant.
Must be their married names.
Yeah, it must be their married name. God's house forevermore, his dwelling place shall be.
I don't know exactly. I'm having a bad time.
It's doing it again, is it?
I don't know if this one is, but actually I think it is a little bit warm, but you have a go with it.
Mine's hot too, so there's a picture of it. Dave's having trouble with the camera at the moment. We're definitely going to have to get in touch with GoPro about this.
Yeah, but
I mean, we've only had it out 5 minutes.
you know,
yeah, it's warm. It's definitely warm. There's some down the back here. There seems to be a lot, like a big gap between the gravestones at the front and the ones at the back, but I can only assume that in between there's a whole heap of unmarked graves, because there's certainly not 75 headstones here, but there is a lot of mounds that you can see that where graves would have been before they were burnt or whatever happened to them. This one says, in memory of David Kelso Fletcher, born 1890, died 1946, from your loving family. They put the concrete hedging around it. I suppose they had that edging in 1946. This one is Sophia Fletcher, born 12th of the 5th, 1888 and died 1956, from your loving family. In loving memory of Kathleen Mary Fletcher, born 1915, died 1947. Oh, there's another little one up here, which has just got a little concrete plaque on it. It says, in loving memory of Thomas William Dickinson, 1910 to 1948, loved husband of Margaret and father of Loretta, Laurie and Lynette. It's definitely getting warmer today.
You see that white one down there? Somebody's painted it.
Yeah, that looks like it's been freshly painted, doesn't it? Look about that white one off there in the distance. It's a really huge one here with a big column on the top. Unfortunately, this one started to cave in. No doubt that one will fall over sometime in the near future. In loving memory of our dear wife and mother, Elizabeth Hutton, died 7th of June 1924. Too dearly loved to be forgotten. That's a nice saying. This one here is rather large.
Isn't it?
Actually, that's another one. That's the second one that's facing the opposite way to all the others. So there's two. This one of Elizabeth Hutton. They must wanted them to face the road.
I don't know.
I can't tell. I should have a look on our compass and see which way this cemetery is actually facing. Because they generally all face to the east. I can't really get my bearings to where we are, to whether we are faced to the east, with them all facing the back down here. Yes, definitely. Oh, this is the one that you can see the big tall column on the top here. It has a wreath around the top. It says, in loving memory of Frank Grant, accidentally killed, Mount Mulligan Disaster, 19th of September 1921, age 37. Unforgettable. That kind of says it all, doesn't it? Erected by his loving wife Mary. This one is also died at the disaster, victim of the Mulligan disaster, erected by the Masonic Brethren in memory of Hugh Jackson, aged 35 years, who's obviously a Mason. There's a big one round the back here. We'll just have a look before we head down. This looks like it was going to be a family plot. It says, sacred to the memory of Mark Smith Harris, born 1874, died 1925, and Mary Richards, born 1846 and died 1922. It's a rather large grave, so maybe they were planning on putting more of the family here, but it never happened. It's a long way out for family to come to bury somebody.
Yeah.
Isn't it? What's this one? Oh, here's some more Huttons over here. Oh no, that one's Harris. This one's Hutton. That one, that Elizabeth Hutton, wasn't it? The one facing the opposite way.
But it's not more acres in it, isn't it?
Not sure.
Maybe it didn't.
I'll have to have a look. This one says, in loving memory of our dear husbands, Thomas Hutton, Edward Hutton, James O'Boyle, aged 37, 32 and 31, killed in Mount Mulligan mine explosion. And also our dearly beloved son, David Thomas Hutton, 1921, age 5, erected by their loving wives and mother. Well, there you go. The three women got together and probably put their money together to get a headstone like that for their husbands. I mean, obviously two of them were related.
Yeah. Well, the other one might have been an in-law.
Yeah, that could have
So
been an in-law, yeah.
So they were probably all related.
That's nice though,
Yeah.
that they did that.
Probably a lot of people buried here, isn't there?
Yes.
Not a single.
This is Thomas Taylor, also killed in the disaster, age 33. So many women lost their husbands that day, all at once. Can you imagine the mourning in such a small town?
Oh. Well, there was no
The
men
grief
left.
would have been unbearable.
No
There was
men.
no men left, yeah, there was only a few. There was 7 men that weren't at work that day. 2 of them are in Mareeba Hospital, one of them was homesick. I've got the rest of them at home. There was 7 people that weren't at work.
When the blacksmith was knocked unconscious
Yeah,
by the blast.
and the mine manager was supposed to be in his office, but apparently he was actually in the mine,
Yeah.
and he died as well. But they thought he would have been in the office. Now they said that they could hear the explosion. Kingsborough heard it, Thornborough heard it,
Mount Molloy heard it.
Mount Molloy heard it. So several kilometres they heard the explosion when the mine blew up.
Yeah.
There's this one white grave. It looks like it's been freshly painted. It's obviously a family member's taking care of it.
You know now, this might be it might be all new.
Well, no, it says died 19th of September 21.
Yes, but I'm just saying that a family...
Oh, they might have put the surround on it.
See, it might have been one of these unmarked ones.
Yes, and they've put a... So it says, loving memory of my dear husband and father, Peter Conoplia. Also died at the disaster, aged 36. But yeah, they've gone to great pains to make this grave stand out, haven't they?
Well,
I'm looking after it.
No, but this is new.
It does look new, doesn't it? The surround of it certainly looks like new concrete. Interesting.
And I wonder whether even the stone is new.
Yeah, they might have replaced it. It might have been one like these other graves with just the rocks around them. But you can see there's a heck of a lot of them. There's even a grave down here in the bush.
Oh, down in the bush and then down. Push the mile right down the back of them.
Yeah. Looks like there could be two graves here, doesn't it? This one with the broken down old fence, and then there's an actual raised section of earth there.
I'm not sure if there might be more graves further down.
Yeah, there could even be more. Well, they've mowed a path, so that makes me think that there is. So this one here is obviously just the timber left of a grave. So we're getting right down the back of the cemetery in the bush now. And there is a path mowed, so maybe there's another one way back here. Somebody wanted their family member to be right at the back.
No, but see, this may not have been the back.
Well, this might not have been the back. Yes, true.
I think we're trying to fence down, so if you're not here, there won't be any here.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why they've actually mowed right to the back here.
Probably to have a look and see whether there's you know.
Oh, I think they've just mowed along the fence line by the looks. Yeah, it looks like they've just mowed along the fence line. But there could be, well and truly, could be graves in amongst that bush there that hasn't been cleaned up. Because this is the grave border, obviously, the boundary of the graveyard. So yeah, interesting. We might head off now and go and have a look at the old town and where the disaster actually took place. So we're heading into where the old town of Mount Mulligan stood now, which is, you know, there's not much here anymore. But as we go round, we'll actually see there somewhere the big chimney stack that was part of the brickworks of the mine, where they made bricks. So you can see a lot of these trees that are growing through here aren't actually native trees, because it's where the town would have been once. Tank over there, and there's a lot of old stumps too that are amongst the trees where you can see where houses once stood. So this is Watson Street on the sign up there. So Watson Street, Mount Mulligan. See, when the people move out, nature certainly takes over again. All through here I can see house foundations. we're now at Mount Mulligan Station. Brahmins. I can even see old tar sections back there on the side of the road. You can see fence posts, you can see stumps. A lot of stumps of old houses. Not sure if they just picked the houses up and took them away, or if they literally, you know, just pulled them down. It's a big chimney stack from the brickworks. I think we just drove up what would have been the main street of Mount Mulligan, where the stores and pubs and what have you would have been. Yeah, I'll hop out here because there's a bit of a memoriam on the sign over here. Says on here, which I'm having trouble seeing on my phone, it says the day the devil wept. There's a couple of pictures there. It says Mount Mulligan is 18 kilometres long, rises 400 metres from the surrounding landscape and is composed of layers of Mesozoic sandstone and conglomerate. Evidence of Aboriginal habitation on the mountain dates back 37,000 years. Making it the oldest dated site in Queensland. 3 coal seam outcrop the base of the escarpment and were mined from 1914 to 1958, giving rise to the township of Mount Mulligan. Geologists believe that the mountain may be a vestigial fragment from the floor of a down-faulted rift valley which roughly extended between the modern sites of Laura and Dimbula in Mosaic times 248 to 65 million years ago. Wow. In 1878, it was first predicted that coal would be found at Thornborough. However, it took until 1907 for it to be discovered when Bill Harris located it. Not where initially predicted, but Mount Mulligan. After early interest from John Moffat, the Chillago Company, which operated the copper smelters at Chillago, took over the development of the coal mine and built a railway line from Mount Mulligan to Dimbula in 1915. However, on September 19, 1921, a coal dust explosion ripped through the mine, causing the third largest mining disaster in Australia's history. So it's probably, I think this one happened first, but there's been a couple since. Sunday 18th of September 1921 was hot and the cricket game was called off. In the cool of the evening, however, an impromptu party was held at the local hall. The girls from the hotels were talked into providing sandwiches, cakes and biscuits, and the town sung and danced until midnight. The single men returned to hotels, still in high spirits, and some had pillow fights. It was to be their send-off. At 9:25 the next morning, there was a horrific explosion in which the mine was killed, all 75 men in it. The explosion was heard 60 kilometres away at Mount Molloy, but worst of all by the children lining up for school and the wives at home, instantly knowing their fathers and husbands were dead. 8 men were not down the mine that morning, and they rushed to the scene and fought through the wreckage of the concrete entrance fan house. The blacksmith, well out from the tunnel mouth, was knocked unconscious by the blast. Driven back by carbon monoxide, several small fans were brought in and 2 cage birds, a canary and a native finch, that were used to test the air. As the gas levels became too high, the birds suffered distress and all retreated. The canary escaped, but the finch became the hero of the operation. The first 2 men found, Thomas Evans and Martin O'Grady, survived until the following Monday. By Thursday, 56 bodies had been recovered. In all, 74 bodies were initially recovered, the last 8 on 8th of February 1922. Father and son died together that day and left 56 orphans. Help and generous donations were forthcoming from all over Australia. To this time, there were no deaths had occurred at Mount Mulligan, and there was no cemetery. Ground was quickly consecrated and the burials held. Even today, to visit that graveyard and read the headstones is enough to make the devil weep. A number of people have reported seeing 1921 on the face of Mount Mulligan since the explosion. By 1921, Mount Mulligan had grown to a township of around 300 people. There were 2 hotels, the top pub and the bottom pub, names which reflected not only their location in a town but also their social standing. Outdoor films were regularly shown and song and dance evenings were a regular occurrence, although women were a minority. A cyclone hit the town in 1920, destroying the church and ripping off the roofs of the hotels. They were operational within hours, however. The church was not rebuilt until 1947. Mount Mulligan coal mine finally closed in 1957, and by May 1958 the town was abandoned and the rail line dismantled. Well, there you go. That's a brief history of what happened in Mount Mulligan, and I think it's a pretty apt name, The Day the Devil Wept. And it doesn't matter how much I look at the face of this mountain, I can't see where it says 1921. But lots of people do so they can see it, so it must be there. So there's the brickworks chimney there. So if I turn around this way, I would have been looking directly down the main street here, where all the hotels and shops and what have you would have been, and the school, and there would have been many houses as well. So now we'll take a drive up and have a look at the actual mine entrance. So we're heading around now to the mine site. I'm going to drive up to it. It's a bit too hot to walk today, and that's the old boilers there where we're looking. So we'll head off to the mine site. It's a bit of a rugged 4-wheel drive track, but it's alright, we'll do it. It says the powerhouse there on that old building. This one out the front here is the old brick kiln. It's amazing that it's actually still standing. Did we go this way last time? I don't think so. I think we went. Did we? Oh. This looks pretty rugged through here. So yeah.
I remember it.
Oh, that's okay. It is very rugged. Might need to do a 4-wheel drive job on this one. That's an old, I don't know, was that a boiler cylinder or something? I'm not sure what that is.
Now, did we go? I think
That way we went.
I think this is the way to.
This one says fitting and blacksmith on the sign here. So that would have been in near that tree. Oh geez, that's a big hole.
It's been rain since.
Yeah, it's been rain since we were here last, and it's certainly made the road a lot rougher.
You're thinking.
Yeah, this way. There's a big brick just here, Dave.
Where was the-
No, we went this way, I think. Because we went there and then we turned that way.
We
'Cause-
eventually went that way.
yes, because we went up past those bathrooms, those old bathrooms.
Yes, where are the bathrooms?
Up there on the right.
Are they?
Yeah. So it says the electrician shop. That's the foundations of the old electrician shop. There's a look at the tower from the other side. And where the blacksmith and what was. There's a bit of a fire right over there on the horizon, I can see. Yes, this is the way we went. It says best on there, so I don't know what best means, but anyway, see a lot of old foundations and stuff through here, and it says here this was the bathrooms and the office. They sort of look like old bathrooms. You can see where the tiles are on the walls still, and the office looks like it's been pulled down. Snake vine taking over everywhere here. Horrible stuff.
After this, we're going back to the camp. And
Yes.
I intend to drink.
I intend to have a lovely cold drink too, because it's really hot today. You can sit by the river, feed the turtles and drink beer.
Yes, and ginger beer.
Ginger beer. That would be lovely. Ginger beer, it's our new favourite, isn't it? There's a... Oops, my finger.
That's the explosives shed,
Yes,
isn't it?
that's the... It says magazine on the side. Still see cables coming down the track here. Big steel cables that we're driving over the top of. It's a rugged old track, that's for sure. The face of that mountain is incredible. We really can't do it justice on the video. That's rugged. Actually got a natural spring up here, which is putting a fair bit of water on the road here. It says up there on the sign, mine entrance. And the mine entrance is just, yes, it's just behind this rock, the mine entrance. Oh, watch that huge rock on the road there, Dave.
Not big rock.
Not one. Do you want me to try and move that? It looks like it's just sitting
I'm
there.
not going to move that.
I can just roll it back, I think. Just let me hop out.
It's a permanent fix.
No, stop. I just want to check.
Right, that's not good. Actually, I'll just reverse back.
Oh, okay.
And drive straight.
Okay. Good idea. Oh, so that looks like one of the old coal trolleys there. We're up at the entrance to the mine now. I think somebody did hit the rock. Somebody did hit the rock. That's why it looks like it's sitting there. So we're heading over now. This is the actual entrance to the mine. You can see there's water running out of it. Not much to see now. It's coming out of the, like a spring from under the mine there. So that's the entrance to Mount Mulligan. So that's where the explosion took place in there. Apparently there was around 6 kilometres of tunnels in there. You can see the rocks over here that they actually stacked up to shore up the entrance to the tunnel in years gone past. This snake bine's incredible. Look at it choking all these trees. It's like a jungle. So yeah, the water's running out. Looks like very clean water.
It's coming out of that mine.
Yeah, it's coming out of the mine. Look, there's a pipe here, Dave, with it coming out. There's a pipe here. It's probably one of the old original pipes letting water out of the mine. See there?
Hmm.
So it's kind of marked by this massive boulder out the front here. Store and residence. Welcome to Dungan Country. That's the Aboriginal name. I'll go and have a look at this sign here. It says private road, no entrance. But this says here. So this is the Aboriginal history of Mount Mulligan. I'll just see if I can bring it up. So it's not real easy to bring up. But it says pronounce Nugdabulgan. In Dungeon, the second NG is used to denote the sound heard in English words sing or song. So, I don't know how you actually say that, but it says customary laws. While you are visiting our country, please respect our customary laws. Recognise and respect the Dungeon sacred and historical sites. Respect and protect Dungeon land and assets. Recognise and respect Dungeon ancestors, descendants, friends, associates and abiding residents of Dungeon country. Do not climb Narrabulgan without prior consent of the Dungeon people's registered native titles body corporate, Nugabulgan native title Aboriginal corporation. Do not act in a violent or threatening manner towards any living or natural object, including the flora, fauna, rivers and rock formations in the Dungeon country. No illegal camping or littering. Interferences to the land of any kind is strictly prohibited without prior consent of the Nungabulgan native title Aboriginal corporation. This includes, but is not limited to, mining, prospecting or building any structures. While visiting Dungeon country, enjoy life and be happy at all times. Well, that's good advice. So there's a bit of a history timeline there. It says 37,000 BP, not sure what that means. Evidence of human occupation at Narrabulgan Cave can be traced back to 37,000 BP. I'm not sure what BP is. It might be before people, is it? Not sure.
I was thinking of people, but it could be British Petroleum.
Yeah, because could be anything. It could be before, white people came to live here. 1848, explorer Edmund Kennedy and party followed the Hodgkinson River downstream where spears were thrown at them by the Dungeon people. And the rest of that story is Edmund Kennedy actually was killed by spears. 1874, James Venture Mulligan prospecting an expedition to the southeast of the Palmer River, a journey where he renamed the Hodgkinson River and Mount Mulligan, real name Narrabulgan. 1875, J.B. Mulligan's expedition arrives and renames the Hahn Range, today known as Hahn's Tableland. 1876, establishment of Mount Mulligan Hodgkinson Goldfields through and Thornborough. 1870s to 1890s, frontier violence in North Queensland led to the deaths of many Aboriginal people, and it also led to the deaths of many white settlers as well. 1879, the Parliament of Queensland passes the Aboriginals Protection and Restriction of the Sale of Opium Act in 1897. 1880s to the 1950s. Oh no, we'll stick to the other side. 1881, Dungeon people were massacred. More information to follow. 1890, the Burns family established the Bullambula Station, 32 kilometres from Thornborough, employing Aboriginal people. 1921, Mount Mulligan Colliery explosion. Legend has it that the Eku warned the Dungeon people to stay away from the mountain that day. 1957, the Mount Mulligan mine was closed. The mine plant was taken to Collinsville and many of the miners followed. Businesses and houses were railed to Cairns. So that's what happened to the houses. They took them to Cairns. 1992, the Dungeon people purchased Condaparinga Station. 2012, the Federal Court of Australia recognises the Dungeon people's native title rights. So here it says 1880s to 1950s, the enactment of the Aboriginals Protection and Restriction of the Sale of Opium Act 1897 led to the establishment of reserves to which Aboriginal people could be forcibly removed and designated Aboriginal protectors, civil servants, police and missionaries. During this period, many Dungeon people were forcibly removed from their traditional land and sent to missions in Yarrabah, Palm Island and Kowanyama. 1930 to 1945, removed Dungeon families returned to country. And 1992, the Dungeon people purchased Condaparinga Station. So there is, that's a bit of a brief history of what went on. It says here, there's a bit of a poem, words by Dungeon Paul Neal, Dungeon traditional owner. What happened to this place? What happened to the flowers and bees? I hear the sound of happy families subtly fading away. It is because of the moments that stand in our place. Why did this happen to us? We were just being happy and free. We still hear the screams from gunshots ringing in our ears, but proud of our ancestors that stood without fear to protect our lands we hold so near. Their monuments now fall to the ground. There's no more gold to be found. So now we can return to our tribal lands, our Dungeon home, Narrabulgan. Interesting. So that's what they call this area.